So recently there's been a legislation coming out that came out, and I think it's going
Yes.
through Parliament at the moment, this month, I believe, and then it'll go into effect a year from when it goes in. What are your, so the basic rule is that 16 and below, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong here from what you've seen, that children underneath 16 can no longer access Facebook, Instagram, and X, and TikTok under the age of 16. What are your thoughts on that?
Gosh, well, they're not black and white. I think that it's a good move in the sense that it's encouraging a shift in our understanding of what's normal or acceptable, and making us feel move with a leaning towards saying that it's not necessarily a good idea for younger people to have so much social media time, and this is something that we need to be paying more attention to. But on the other side, I don't necessarily think that all social media is bad for young people. And in fact, I heard recently that a huge number of reaching out for mental health support is done on social media for young people. So if we need to make sure that there are other avenues that young people feel competent and confident in seeking support. And I'm also really aware that when used well, social media can actually enhance young people's connections with others, with relationships with friends. I mean, in a magical world, we would say you can absolutely have all of these things for your friends, for your relationships with your friends, but you're not allowed to access people beyond that group, beyond those people in your offline world. And that would possibly be a better place to be. I realise that that's not necessarily a possibility. I think there's also a lot of people are talking about the fact that how could we possibly make this happen? You know, young people are notoriously good at getting around any rule or restriction put in place, and I think that in this we don't necessarily to think we do have to enforce it. It's more that the rule is encouraging a shift in our understanding of what a good use of a young person's time is. So in that, I'd see it as more of a guideline for supporting behaviour, but I think it doesn't make sense to see it as something that you could get arrested for, or that be in some way that it's realistically going to be fully enforced.
Perhaps I have a
Yeah.
more of a conservative take on this, and it's a take that I haven't fully formulated yet, but I'd love to hash it out here. I believe that it should be up to the parents. I believe that the parents should be able to decide what their children can and can't do, and I think the parallel solution is education around. So you look at Jonathan Haidt's book, what's it called? Generation Anxiety, I think it's called. And a lot of the research in there and advice in there is a very clear idea on what one can do to facilitate mental well-being within children and obviously within parents as well, and adults. So I feel that the solution falls on to empowering parents rather than moving it to the government. I don't believe in, I mean, this is my point of view, in some areas, not all areas, but in this particular area, that the government should stay away. And that what they should do is
Right.
education, from a distance.
Well, I agree with you, but I also think that by putting this in place, maybe that is in some way helping to empower parents. Because as much as we want families to be able to make decisions in the best interest for themselves as families, and to support parents to make good decisions, it's very the what you think is in the best interest of your family is going to be hugely influenced by the norms around you, by the what other people are doing, and what the socially accepted viewpoint is. So in part by shifting that, we're helping parents to actually make better decisions, although they can still make them for themselves. But I also think that a lot of parents feel that they are just helpless, or they're just a very small voice in the bigger world that is really supporting the use of social media. And of course, social media companies have a huge amount of sophisticated marketing behind them. And
Mm.
it's really hard for parents. It's a bit like trying to sort of compete against colourful cereal boxes with a apple, isn't it? It's
Mm.
you're trying to push something that's really a good decision, but if you're competing against a world that says otherwise, that's a hard ask, especially for teenagers. So I think that absolutely for younger children, decisions are firmly within the domain of parents, because parents still have the biggest influence on their children and the strongest relationships. But in those early teenage years, that's not necessarily so easy or the case. But that's really as well why I'm saying that I don't know that this is very enforceable, or even that there should be huge measures to enforce it beyond the parents being able to refer to the rule. And of course, if people are undertaking sort of criminal behaviour online, then you have another layer to help protect young people as well.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Getting Mental podcast. If you like this episode, then you'll love this one here and this one here. Check them out.